Hey everybody, Brandon Smith here with the Syrup City Podcast, and joined as always, you know him, the man, the myth, the legend, Matt Vickers. Matt, how's it going?
It's going good, buddy. What's up?
It's just another day. Good to see you. Good to be hanging with you, recording the podcast. And sorry to everybody listening if you are listening to this a little later on your Friday.
Yep.
Had some technical difficulties, but we got them all worked out now, and
Yep.
we're ready to
We here.
rock and roll.
Yes.
So, this episode is going to be a little bit different. We have no guest. It's just me and Matt in here. We're just chilling. We're just vibing.
Don't turn it off, please. Don't
Yeah,
turn
yeah,
it off.
no. Stay listening. Stay listening. Sorry. But before we move on, just quick shout out, Emerson Hancock. Thank you so much, man, for being on the podcast last week.
Yes.
Dude, you're a solid guy, and we are praying for you and wishing you nothing but the best in your future endeavors. But thank you so much again for joining us last week, and maybe one day very soon or later on we'll have you on again.
Yep.
But this week we're gonna do something a little bit different. It's just be me and Matt, and we're actually gonna talk about some things that both of us are really passionate about, and that is ministry, specifically youth ministry.
Holla.
And so we have a lot of things to just kind of discuss and go over, and just really kind of give our point of view from everything that has gone on in our world today, and kind of like a youth minister's perspective. And then we'll share some funny stories, I guess, at the end of youth ministry and how we've gotten to this point. So, um, so anyways, so Matt, just kind of, I guess, throw the ball in your court.
Okay.
You're here,
Yep.
not just physically here, but you're here in Cairo now, and been here since January.
Mhm.
And so you're kind of like, you were here, got to meet your students, got to hang out with them for a good month and a half, and then boom,
Nothing.
global
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah.
What's that been like?
Man, okay, so it's interesting because, I'll be honest with you. I'm super blessed, and I hope my students hear this because I never want them to go without knowing how much I'm really just proud of them. I'm blessed to have the students that I have. I've told them multiple times. I have not in the years I've been doing ministry, which has been, we're double digits now for me. I've never had an actual group of students like I have.
Mm.
And this is one of the senior classes where, I told a couple of the seniors the other day, like, I wish I'd have been here sooner just to be able to spend more time with them because I mean they're awesome.
Yeah.
And so you get that side of it because, luckily coming in, we started D now. We were right into D now right when I first got here.
Yeah, we made you the hype man.
Yeah,
We volunteered you.
That was a joke. Yeah. Anyway, but so I got to take that weekend, and I just really, man, I invested hard into the lives of our students and even into our leaders and things like that to show them, hey, I'm not just some guy. Like
Yeah.
I came from another state because I saw something in you and I wanted to be a part of whatever it is that you're going through and doing.
Absolutely.
And so it was really neat because they opened up to me. And so you kind of don't feel like a new guy. Like there's a part of me that doesn't feel like a new guy. But then at the same time, like you said, I've only got like a month and a half with them, and then boom, we're in a pandemic and we can't have church at all. Now
Yeah.
it's just straight online, and it's like, okay, well now I definitely feel like a new guy because I'm just now kind of learning everybody. So it's been tough, But when I talk to the students, it because of how impactful that D Now weekend was for us, just to gel really
Oh
quickly.
yeah.
Um, it made a world of difference. I mean, it was a game changer for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from my perspective, so I'm roughly 2.5 years here,
Yeah.
and for the first, I would say, I'll just be honest, for the first 6-8 months, it was kind of rough, just treading different waters and trying to just see what works, see what doesn't work. And I was in a cool spot because, like, I was kind of given free reign to, like, hey, if you want to make changes, make changes. You want to do this, do that. And so anyways, I was able to do some different things. And um, with this senior class that we have right now, they were sophomores
Mm-hmm.
when I first got here.
Absolutely.
And so they were right on that line of, they were actually some of the first group of students that I came to first.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, all right, you guys are my sophomores. You're going to be here a little bit longer than, say, obviously the seniors and juniors now, or what was 2.5 years ago. And so I really just kind of I did my best to pour into the seniors that we had, and then the juniors, but then that sophomore and then that freshman class when I first got here, I really was like, all right, we need to formulate something here.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned that D now. So over the last like 6-7 months, before all this coronavirus stuff, our youth ministry was just turning in a solid direction. We finally had a good game plan. We had formed a good foundation, great leaders, and I'll brag on my students too. I'm blessed to have the students that I have,
Yeah.
and I love our students. And we were just, the thing was we were all heading in the same direction.
Yeah.
And that was so important for all of us.
That's
And
right.
so the first year I was here, we touched and really just centered around the word unity,
Mm-hmm.
and just how if we're gonna go forward, we need to have unity.
That's right.
And just that togetherness and things like that. And so then the next year, what did it look like if we just, for the one common goal, we all went in the same direction for the sake of Jesus. And so, and we were doing that. And so we had a great camp last year, and we had a great fall, and we're turning the corner Christmas time, and we have our youth Christmas party, which is hands down our biggest get together that we have. That's when like our students invite most of their friends and stuff, and
cool.
it's our biggest deal. So we always plan it for the last Wednesday night that we meet together.
Yeah.
And so it's our Christmas party. And so and then we transition from that right into D now. And like this year's D now, and I know I've only been here for a couple here in Cairo, but my goodness, and if you're listening and you were at the D now, you know what we're talking about, and just how impactful and how great it was. And right then, that, like, we were already turning a corner, but that right there just kicked us into high gear. And so we get here, and then I meet you, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, another full-time youth guy in town. This is going to be awesome. We can partner together, do things together. And then, boom, global pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's just it's so frustrating.
And that's the thing, okay, so, let me ask you, so I'll kind of hit on something you said, because, for those people who don't really understand youth ministry, and of course, I mean, you'll probably agree with me, I've been doing it for a few years now, but I'm still learning youth. I mean,
100%.
That's the amazing thing about youth ministry. Youth ministry and kids ministry, you're evolving week by week, and it's not like you have some guys who say, oh, I'm going to do the same thing at every single church. Well, that's great for a little while, but eventually you're going to run into a church that's not going to work. So, you're constantly changing and things like that. And so one of the things you talked about was like trying to dive into like your sophomores and things like that. And like what a lot of people don't understand, like to me, I think the most effective way to do student ministry, and this is really what we're about to start doing now, because I didn't really get a chance to start any of this just yet. I had to focus my time a lot on like the group as a whole.
Sure.
While at the same time trying to take every avenue I can to be personal with each,
But in your
groups.
defense, you didn't know this was coming.
No, that's right. That's right. And so, the idea, ultimately as a student minister, we're always looking at, okay, what do we want our students to look like when they walk across the stage to get their diploma? That's what we focus on. And then once we understand that and we look at what do I want my senior to look like, then we go all the way back to the beginning of our ministry and say, okay, what do they need? Where are they starting from there? And the cool thing is like I talked with Heather, our children's minister, yesterday, and we talked about that. And I told her, I said, one of the things that her and I need to do is sit down and me say, okay, here's what I want them to look like when they come into the student ministry. So now how can I help you in the children's ministry to prepare their, and that's the beauty of ministry, is that every single aspect of ministry is a stepping journey towards ultimately meeting Jesus.
Absolutely.
And so that's one cool thing about student ministry, and that's what I think a lot of times people may kind of have a misconception of, is that, just what it really does take to really dive and invest in the lives of these students. I mean, I never want to be, and unfortunately, and if this podcast ever makes it to Alabama and some of those people ever hear it, I hope they know that my heart breaks, because when I first got into the ministry, I did not do a good job of this. I never want to be in a ministry to where the people under me don't know how much I truly care about them. And like I said, unfortunately, I didn't do as good of a job with that when I was younger. Had a lot of face hitting the dirt kind of moments, that really got me to go, okay, wow. And it wasn't really for me until I took that little bit of a break from ministry and, kind of went and got a secular job, that I realized the passion that I really had. And so coming in here, it was different because, like, I gained in that time off. I gained that passion again. I saw the why of why I do ministry. You
Yeah.
know, and that's the thing. Like, man, when you forget your why, you need a break, because the why is what drives you. And so coming in, man, I was on fire because I finally remembered and I rediscovered the why I even did ministry in the first place.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the virus came, and it's like, and of course, especially as a new person, like as a new guy, I'm not gonna lie and say that there weren't days where I'm like, God, why, like why? What was the, we just got here. I just picked my family up and moved to a whole nother state, and everything seems to be rocking really, really well. And people are constantly coming up to me just saying, "Hey, thank you for this. Thank you for this. We noticed that you were doing this." I mean, people
Mhm.
were really, I mean, they were just there loving on us,
Yeah.
and boom, no more youth.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing. You're just going to do videos, and it's like,
Yeah. And might I say, just speaking for me here, I can't stand doing the videos. I'll
dude,
just be honest. Like,
because
and I've told my
you want to
students,
be there.
yeah, you want to be with your students, and I think I told some of my leaders, and I told some of the students, I was like, I'll just be honest with you, like, I'm tired of doing these
Yeah.
videos.
Well, and it's I read an article the other day talking about Zoom fatigue. Doing your
Yeah,
your
no,
Zoom. And if you're one of my students, we went. There was a little bit where we didn't do a Zoom video. Well, I realized why, because I got fatigued, but then I allowed other things to kind of take the place of that, and I apologized for that, and I still am sorry for that. But I mean, that stuff's real, man.
yeah,
It's different because when your students are there, and that's what you've given yourself to, that fuels you when you see them. When you
yeah,
see them smile, you see them laugh, when you see them hurting, that's like just kind of fanning that flame in you to say, I'm going to be better. I'm going to do better for them and be the best that I can for them.
yeah. And a lot of people, forget or just don't realize that, like, this from the youth minister perspective, it's the students that keep us going.
Yeah.
Like, you mentioned, for me, it was kind of the same thing. Like at the previous church I was at back in my hometown of Lakeland. Dude, I was young, and
Hmm.
looking back, I thought I knew what I was doing. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
was so clueless. Like, all
Yeah.
I knew was this. I had a passion for Jesus, and I
Hmm.
had a passion to teach Jesus to students and
Yep.
to reach students with the gospel. But other than that, I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Like, and so I'm still in college. I'm still learning, but when I got here to Cairo, and I was like, man, I got so many leaders. I got more students,
Hmm.
and so it kind of forced me to get a little bit more organized, a little bit more structured, and it was having leaders going, hey, what can we do here? What can we do here? And so,
Yeah.
and they were helping. Not that the last church they didn't, because they were very, very helpful, and I don't want them to misunderstand that. They were very, very helpful. It was me. Like, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But so, like, now I'm here, and even last year, like, I kind of ran into the same thing too. It was a struggle, because I mean, we were dealing with some things. Jesse and I were, back at home, and dealing with some things here, and I was kind of losing that why. I was like,
Yeah.
man, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I think at some point in any youth minister's career, they're going to go through that.
Well, I mean, it's not even just youth ministers.
No,
I mean,
anybody in the
that's
ministry.
right.
Yeah, and so I was like, man, what is my why? Well, then we went to Passion Camp, and that was just kind of like a rejuvenation. And I
Hmm.
was like, man, I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
And I just had some great guys, Levi Lusko, Louie,
Hmm.
Brad Jones, all those
Jeez.
guys just kind of taking that time to pour into me and the other
Yeah.
ministers that were there, and I just thoroughly enjoyed that for that
Right.
week. But then there was, like, I was still missing that, like, I guess that student aspect of, like, man, why, I want to still reach these students, and I want to reach them for the sake of the gospel. And then that's kind of about the time when D Now rolled around.
Hmm.
And again, if you were there, you understand. But that last night,
Hmm.
I get it. I mean, I'm not trying to, say anything about me, even though because I was preaching that night. But you got to understand, while everybody was eating, I don't think I've told anybody this, but while everybody was eating dinner,
Hmm.
I walked to my office because I knew I was getting ready to preach, and I had something lined up, what I
Yeah.
was going to say. And then there was a huge chunk of time, like in the middle of my sermon, that I was like, I don't know what to say here. Like,
Yeah.
I could not find anything to say.
Yeah.
And so I just sat in my office. I just started praying. I was like, God, give me something, give me something. And then when I want to try to relax for a second, I'll hop on Facebook and I'll just start scrolling or
Yeah.
whatever, and just try to relax. And so anyways, I finished praying and I'm just sitting there and I'm clueless. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to ad lib for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Kind of go off my notes or something. And well, then anyways, I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see the story of this sheep, and it was the story they ended up telling in the sermon, and it just went so well with the rest of my sermon, and it actually gave me that kind of that like send home punch that I was looking for.
Yeah.
And man, it was just so cool to see how just God just orchestrated that. And but I don't know, that whole weekend, as stressful as it was, being like, because when you're hosting an event, like
Yeah.
it's stressful.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
when you're a host, and I was stressing out, but all the churches coming together, helping out. But that was exactly what I needed. Like when I left that night, I looked at Jesse. I was like, that is why I do what I do. That
That's
is
right.
why I'm called to do what I do. But right now, it is kind of a struggle because like you're desperate to like be around the students again. You're
Yeah.
desperate to hang out with them, and then you get the opportunity to hang out with them, and then it's like, oh, social distancing.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I know.
it's like a
Well,
tease.
and not only that, like, I mean, think about planning. Like right now, you cannot plan. There's nothing to plan for.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's nothing. As youth pastors, you're constantly looking the next event down the road, 2 events down the
Well,
road.
you always try to be a couple months ahead.
Right.
I mean, I always try to be a couple months ahead.
Yeah.
As far as,
I mean, I try
but
to be a few days ahead.
here's the
I
thing.
can just-
But here's the thing now. Like, I know we've talked about it, and we've talked about it with some other youth pastors in the area. It's you want to plan to do something in the summer. What are you going to do?
You can't.
Where are
right
you going to
now.
go?
That's right.
And so, but it's tough.
Yeah. It's so what's funny is like, so I think about that, and I think like that D now. So for our students during D now that Saturday night, we were gonna let them go back to their host homes and let them do their Bible study and things like that. But then some of the leaders, that was the plan anyway. I should say that was the plan. But then some of the leaders, Miss Sherry Kiesler, shout out to her. She came and she's like, I think we all just need to go to the church.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, then let's all just go to the church.
Just go.
That's fine.
Just do
I mean, because here's what I've learned in ministry, like, unless it's something outlandish, like God's speaking through
Sure.
them too. I mean, and I'm still new.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure everybody out, things like that. But she said it. Let's do it right now. Me and Rollins, she came. I think she actually talked to Rollins first, and then Rollins called me or something. But we get to the church, and dude, I'm not even kidding you. I don't even think I can put into words exactly what God did that night.
Yeah.
But like, just in a little bit of time I've been here, like students that I'd never even saw open their mouth, they were talking, and like,
Yeah.
and when they talked, like you could hear a pin drop in the room. We had leaders over in corners, just man, God dealing with them and students, and I remember looking at the students one part of that night, and I was like, look, I said, I'm glad I'm here. I said, but in this moment, I said, you don't even need me. Like, this is your ministry. God is working, and God was doing crazy things for them. I'm glad I'm here. Please keep me. But, in that moment, but that's what you want as a
Yeah.
youth pastor. Like,
Absolutely.
You want to see, and really for pastors, if you're listening and you're a pastor, this should be your heart and your desire too. You want to see the ministry of the people so strong that it almost feels like you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
That God is doing something so powerful that you get to stand back and he's like for that moment in that night, God put me on the front row seat and I got to watch.
Absolutely.
And it was almost like he said, just sit for just a few minutes. Like,
Yeah.
Because there were certain parts of the night I had no idea what to say. I would think of songs, and I would just turn my phone on and put it beside a microphone on the stage and just let the song play. Because I literally had nothing to say, but it was so perfect at how the songs seemed to flow together.
Yeah.
Even though I was just scrolling trying to find them,
Just
but like
yeah.
God was just using them, and dude, it was so crazy. But okay, so let me ask you this: so we have that awesome time, and
Yeah.
then we come into pandemic. How do you think it's going to be coming out of it? Because our student ministries, both of our ministries, know that we're actually starting back this coming Wednesday.
Yeah.
You're starting here at First Baptist. I'm starting back at Pine Level. Like what do we do? Like, what's that going to look like? You think for you and your guys?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's gonna be very, very interesting, and I think it's a couple fold in
Yeah.
that. I think we've talked about it before. I think for us as youth ministers, it is a big chance to kind of like, all right, if there's a chance to change anything,
Yes.
here's the time to do it.
Yep.
And I was actually before I came here for the podcast, I was with a student of ours, And I was talking to him about it, and he's a senior, and he was like, yeah, that's a good point. He was like, because we've kind of had this moment of lull, and because we've talked about before, the last thing you want to do is you want to come in and just go right back to what you were doing.
Fall back in that rut.
Unless your ministry was absolutely booming and rocking. Here's the thing: we were turning a corner, and we had turned the corner, and we were heading in a great direction. But I think now we can do things and put things in place to even expound upon that, and go a little further.
Even if your ministry was booming, like I'm trying to develop in myself like that. What's one more step? Like that mindset. Like, what can I do? What's one more step we can take to make it this?
And so there's that fold of the youth minister, and I think that then you get into. Well, I'll skip that one. I'll come back to that one last. But the next fold I think would be your parents and your older people of your church. I think, we have a good, and I'm not just talking about my church, any church. I think we have a good split of like parents who are, they're going to encourage their kids to come back. And then there's going to be some that are, they're going to kind of wait it out and they're just going to see. Because even with churches reopening, there's going to be people who are like ready to come back. And there's going to be people like, well, we're going to wait a little bit.
That's right.
And that's totally fine. That's your decision. And we want to be supportive of whatever way you fold.
Yep.
But then I think the most important fold is the students.
Yeah.
And I think it is all going to, that's where a lot of things hinge right there, is on how the students react. Are the students going to be ready to come back?
Yeah.
And students ready to, be around their friends and dive back into God's word? Or have we come to this place of comfort where we're used to watching the videos? We're used to, because you got to think about it. Most students now they finished their schoolwork that they had to do. So they're in summer mode. They're vacation mode right now. And even when there's not a pandemic going on, summer is a hard time
for students. That's right.
For students, but it's a hard time for ministers to connect with students.
Yep.
Because they're in summer mode. A lot of parents take off work, or if they're teachers, they don't have work. They're gone. They're on vacations, and our church, that's people go on vacation. That's fine. I grew up going on vacations too.
Yeah.
Like I'm not knacking that in any way.
Yeah.
But I think that fold is very, very important as far as those students, whether they want to come back, and I think you'll see that everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's gonna hinge upon that as far as like I want to see students excited to come back, because here's the thing, like I think that generation of students can be the generation that shows the world like, hey, we're not going to waver in our faith. Like this pandemic may have set us back, but it's not knocking us out. We're going to come back stronger, and we're ready to shock the world.
Yeah.
And so, and I just want to be there to witness that, but also be there to kind of help champion that and see that come to fruition. And so, I think overall, though, going back to the question, I think it's definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And I pray that, the students are just eager and ready to come back and ready to love on God and love on each other.
Yeah. So it's important what you said. I think ultimately the student.
Yeah.
You and I, we are just a part of what God's doing.
Yeah.
The ministry belongs to the students.
Absolutely.
That's why it's called student ministry.
Yeah.
And that's what I really tried to harp on when I first got here to Pine Level was, students, this is your ministry. And if we ever think of it in a different way, we've missed the point.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which church you're at. That's the object of student ministry. The ministry is the students. So at that point, they have to come inside and they have to take ownership of that. And until they take ownership in that, that's when you're really just going to kind of be floating. When they take ownership, however, you're going to start seeing things move and start seeing things drive, because then God's going to start showing them things that they maybe never seen before, just through different avenues.
Yeah.
Thinking of the parents, I absolutely love parent interaction with student ministry.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to get both. You're going to get, a good side, which is what we pray for. You're going to get some negative that you're going to have to kind of deal with and things like that. But, at the end of the day, like as parents are basically student ministers at home.
Absolutely.
Parents, and I go back to, when Joshua said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. There was no option. There was no maybes. He said, we will serve the Lord. And our parents have to take that same mindset with their students to say, hey, you're going to serve the Lord because there is something so much greater than what you see right now. And so parents champion. And so, like, I wonder, like, okay, in this time that we've been in, parents having the opportunity because, let's face it, on a normal Wednesday night, you and your students, like for us at Pine Level, we'd go, our students there hour and a half tops from the beginning to the end of coming in and eating for family night supper, and then our service, and then sometimes them leaving, things like, they're roughly an
Yeah.
hour and a half, something like that. Well, our videos, we try to keep them 15 minutes or less, for the social media platforms that we're using and things like that. And so I think you're right. Like I wonder, like have we come to a point, not even just students, but we're talking adults too, who are not in church as well, but we've kind of gotten comfortable with just a 15-minute thing. If we watch it, if we watch it,
Yeah.
15 minutes there, and then we're done.
Yeah.
I mean, we could watch, like, I don't have to watch it on Wednesday night. I can watch it on Thursday if
And
I
I
want
think
to.
I think that's what people have to realize is like those videos, even though it talks about church and its ministry, it's not church.
Right. Don't forsake the assembling of yourselves,
Yeah.
as the Bible says. And because there's something so beautiful about community.
Yeah.
And so that, like, when I come back to that question, and I thought about that question even just today, driving the kids over to my in-laws, and just having that time by myself on the road. It's like, okay, what do I want it to look like when we start back? So the other day, and I wish I could remember the guy's name. I was on Facebook trying to put something up for the student ministry, and just this video clip of this pastor pulled up. I've never seen this guy before, don't have a clue who he is. I started kind of diving in to see who he is because I really like the way that he taught, and I like, that video clip. It was really neat because it's so funny. He had an old school Nintendo, like the kind that you put the old cassette tape top in the top. And the only thing you see was he's like, you can't talk to me if you don't know anything about this. And then all of a sudden, he pulls it out and starts blowing on the inside of it.
What a struggle that was,
dude,
man.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
And he sounds so old. But it was so cool because he used that, and of course everybody laughed and things like that. But then he hit him with that punchline, which was, there's a button on that just simply says reset. And he says, at any moment, he used the joke, he said, if any moment, if I was playing bad or not doing as good as I want to, if nobody was looking, I could hit that reset button and just start it over.
Yeah.
But then he tied it back and he said, maybe God has given you a reset. And then I started thinking about that, and I thought, that may be the new word for now.
Yeah, because here's our thing as churches, not just our church. I think any church, is like, you always hear during, quarantine and during the isolation and stuff that was going on, everybody talks about, I can't wait till things get back to normal. Well, from a church standpoint of things, I don't know if I want to go back to normal.
Mm-mm.
Like, I don't know if normal is where we need to get back to. I think greater is where we need to head to.
Always.
And, because, like, it's real easy to get, and I'm kind of getting vulnerable here for a minute, but it's real easy to get into the trap of, this is the way we've always done it. Let's just do it this way. And here's the thing, like, you look at all the statistics, whether it be from Southern Baptist numbers or just any, the Baptist churches or North American Mission Board. You look at any of those, like, their statistics and their stuff, like, church attendance and church baptisms and church, all that stuff was declining. Church closing their doors was increasing, stuff like that. So I'm not so sure if going back to normal is what we ought to be doing.
That's right.
I think this was I'm not saying, let me just be careful. I think God is presenting an opportunity for not just youth ministries, but churches as a whole to really think about that reset. Think about, hey, let's pause. And let's really get back into, the original intentions for the church, and what this looks like to really go after God 100% and raise up those champions for Christ. And so,
so I talked with a few of my leaders the other day before really we kind of made the decision to go ahead and start back, and like I told them, I said, and even the video that I used this past Wednesday, I kind of talked about, looking at quarantine a little bit differently. We used the life of Paul. For 5 years, Paul, was either in prison or under house arrest. So, it's kind of funny because, like, Paul was in quarantine before quarantine was even a household term. Like, I mean, we think our Wi-Fi is slow. We can't really do this and this. And Paul was in prison with nothing.
First world problems, am I right?
It's like nothing, But look at what he did. I mean, he wrote 5 letters, which would become 5 books of the Bible that we now study, that not only just changed the churches that he wrote them to, but also has changed the course of history. And then you have to then go back and say, okay, what have I done? I think I tagged it on, like, I think it was Instagram for our students. I tagged the little title of the video and just said, how are you using your quarantine? I think this is a great moment and a great opportunity. And this is what I told the leaders. We should use this now as a springboard into something new and something fresh. People are scared of new,
Oh
and
yeah.
there's times where I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Um, but there's if we can develop that mindset of what's one more step,
Yeah.
one more, think about back to like old school sports, like when one more drill, one more lap, one more. It wasn't just as a punishment. Sometimes it was for a punishment, but it was to make you better, whether
Yeah.
you thought it or not, or saw it or not. Your coach looked at you and he said, "One more time, one more time." It's just making you one step better.
Absolutely.
And so, I challenged some of our leaders that I was able to talk to on the phone, and we're actually going to meet here soon. And the challenge is this: what's one more step we can do
Yeah.
when we look at coming back? Because even though I'd only had like about a month and a half with our students, I'm like you. I don't actually want to go back to that.
Yeah.
Even if it was great, and it actually was. I mean, I love my students. Oh my, I cannot say it enough. I love our students, but I want it to be better.
Sure.
And I think about it like this, and God is slowly changing me. But it's if I can truly say I want what's best for them,
Yeah.
then I should be willing to do the next step, the next drill, run the next lap, so that I see the best in them. And so I think this is perfect opportunity for us.
Yeah.
How do we take the time that we've had? I mean, here's the thing: you've been forced for about however long this quarantine. Some people, it's funny. Like I know somebody who was posting a video every day, and like she was keeping them numbered, and she's like quarantine day number of this, and I didn't do all that. But you've been forced through this whole opportunity, through this whole problem, to just sit and rest. For me, that's hard.
Yeah.
And you can ask my wife if you ever see her. It's hard for me to slow down. Like I'm always going, always going. But this forces you to do so.
Yeah.
And in the slowing down, you also rest. And I think for our ministers across we at first, if we're honest, we looked at it all in a negative way.
Sure.
Everybody looked at it
Oh
in a
yeah.
negative way. But then I slowly started kind of changing my mindset to say, well, God, I actually first I need to thank you for giving me the opportunity to rest, which I have not had in a while, but also time now to where I can kind of formulate to say, okay, how can we shift? How can we make things better? What's one more step we can take to make our ministries better?
Yeah, and even in that planning, there's still that struggle of like, okay, when can we do this? What
That's
can we
right.
do?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And so, we alluded to it before. And so if there's anybody listening, our students listening, I know First Baptist and Pine Level, we're both having services starting next Wednesday.
Yeah, this coming Wednesday.
This coming Wednesday. And so I was talking to our pastor about it earlier this morning. I think for us, for our church, this is kind of, this coming Wednesday is going to be kind of like a guinea pig thing.
Yeah.
Because here's the deal. There's no pressure because I get it. There's a lot of different variables now because of what we're going through.
Right.
And so the last thing you want is to anybody feel pressured like they have to come.
Yeah,
And here's the
yeah.
thing. Like we're gonna have different outlets where you can come and be a part, or you can watch it on Facebook or
Yep.
Instagram Live, whichever one I decide to do. We're gonna do one of them. But the thing is like I don't want anybody to feel pressured,
Right.
as in the sense of like, but I mean, does my heart want you to be there? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna do everything we can and everything necessary to make sure everyone stays safe.
That's
Everyone
right.
is still practicing those recommendations of the social distancing and stuff like that. And so, you know, but you talk about the planning and moving forward. I do believe we sit in a great opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's that planning and that next step going forward. Because here's the deal: I have seen and you've seen it too, what this group of students in this county are capable of, and we saw it on the last night of D Now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had almost every student in that room, on their hands and knees before God, and praying, and then coming across. I had students from my church, going to students in your church,
Yep.
and hugging each other and just sharing different things. And so, and all of them, 90% of them are going to the same high school in Cairo. And like, I have some different students at some other schools at, Brookwood and Central and
Yeah.
Thomasville. And so, but, it was that idea of when you pass them in the halls, like, hey, I'm checking on you. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm praying for you. Is there anything
Yeah.
I can do? Things like that. So I know what our students are capable of. Now it's how do we take that next step so where that happens
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
And that's just our new way of life.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it'll be going back to that original question, it'll be interesting, how things kind of transition. I think it's going to be a gradual,
Hmm.
like back into the swing of things.
Yeah.
Um, and then, but like I said, it's all gonna depend on, parents, leaders, students,
Yeah.
things like that.
It goes, okay. I think ultimately it comes to this. Where are you in far as like craving? Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, God
Craving what? That
crave
sweet tea that I just drank? I've been craving it for a
was it?
while.
I've been eyeballing it, but I wasn't gonna take it. Social distancing. Um, but no, like, like, are you craving to be back? Are you craving to get back into and that's the thing. Like, when you look at the shift that's been taking place over the past few years in just church life in general, there's been a shift in this idea of community.
Sure.
It's something that happened in Bible times. I think sometimes in history, when you look back, I think we kind of got away from it some as a church as a whole, in American church. But you start to look at some of these other churches that are really, they just seem like they really got it. They've got to focus on community,
Yeah.
and they're constantly they're wanting to meet together, and you've heard it. You've heard it. I've heard it with our people. Like, our people are ready to get back together, and so it's trying to be very careful, very cautious, but at the same time, I'm so ready to spend time with our students. Like,
Yeah.
I cannot, and our leaders, Zoom is great. Praise God for whoever created Zoom,
But it's not the same.
but it's not even
No.
close to the same.
No, and I think the craving question, it's all going to depend on who you ask. Like if you ask me, yeah, I'm ready to see him right now.
Yeah.
But you ask,
Well, good. I'm just kidding. I
okay.
say you got some coming in the door now.
But I mean, yeah, it all depends on really, who you ask, and like yeah, for me, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to rock and roll. I never wanted to stop, but
Yeah.
here's the thing, because of all this that's happening, everyone's going to have different opinions
Right.
of what we should be doing and what's going on, and that's just it's the world we live in. But I do think, whether you agree with me or not, whoever's listening, or whether we like it or not, things are going to be different
Yeah.
when we come back. Things are going to be, I've talked about it with our pastor, Pastor Chris. What is, we talk about the passing of the plate for offering. I mean,
Yeah.
does that just go away and you just have stuff at the doors? That time of meet and greet. That's the
Mhm.
thing about a Baptist church, man. You don't take meet and greet away from people.
That or eating.
Yeah, I
Like,
tell people all the time. No one. I'm sorry, Cameron, if you're listening, but nobody listens to the first song of a worship set because everyone's like eyeballing who they're about to shake hands with. I'm serious. It's the honest truth. Next time, well, you can't do it now because things are different. But before then, you should have looked around, or if your church videotapes a service, watch it and watch the very first song. Bet everybody's looking around. No one's
man, 'cause
saying.
they just want, and
They're
that's
ready
the
to go.
thing.
They're like, oh, I see Brother Larry over
Yep.
there. He about to get it.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
about to
coming to
shake his
hug that
hand.
boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but that's the thing, and things are very different. And the other one that we've been talking about that I'm interested to see, honestly, is like altar calls.
Yeah.
What is that gonna look like?
Yeah. Well, okay. So here's what I thought about, and it's unfortunate to a degree. Okay, I want to make sure I'm clear on that. But anytime a crisis hits, of course, we always see in the church, a big wave that kind of happens, when 9/11, for instance, happened.
Oh, sure.
Huge wave in our churches. Unfortunately, sometimes that wave kind of fizzles out, and so do the people. My hope and any hope of any pastor is the same way, that, you want that to stick, you want that to stay. Um, you know, I've actually been wondering the same thing. We've been out, we've been away, and I actually want to issue this as just an encouragement, as a challenge. For some of you who may be listening, maybe you don't go to church. This is the chance.
Yeah.
Come give it a shot. Come give it a chance. Give God a chance and see. It's like I tell people, give God one chance, and I promise you'll never look
Yeah.
at it the same again.
If there's ever a time for someone that's never been in church to come to church, now is definitely the time.
Because you're gonna see forms of community that we haven't seen before. I believe you're gonna see people who have been longing so much to see somebody. Community is already gonna happen, and that's the beauty. We now have to harvest that and say, okay, how can we keep that, and how can we make that better?
Yeah, and that was always one of the things that I learned at Liberty. In one of my classes there, I had a professor say, if you want to be a part of a big church, be a part of a small church.
That's right.
Meaning, like, if you want to see a church grow to its full God-given potential, have that sense of community, have
Yep.
that sense of small groups, things like that. And I was just bragging on some of my students. Our Sunday night crowd for our student ministry isn't as large as our Wednesday night crowd, but I can go ahead and tell you that's probably the tightest knit group of kids
Yeah.
right there. That 10 to 15 of them,
Yep.
because they're there on Sunday nights. Now these are the ones that Sunday, Wednesday, and Sunday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. They're there all three services, and then but that Sunday night crowd, it's a little bit more relaxed. We talk about different things. Before all this started, we were going through this thing where they were just kind of asking me questions about the Bible, and I would take a turn each question. I would try to answer them.
Yeah.
And we did a series on that on a Wednesday night. But I mean, that group right there, I mean, that's kind of where it all started for us, was that little small group, and it built and built and built. And
Yeah.
so, and now you see it's bleeding over. That Sunday night group is bleeding over into like our Wednesday night crowd
Yep.
and our Sunday morning crowd. And, that group is, I mean, it's just, you see it because now it's that sense of community, as before, like, because we have a pretty good diverse group of students where, like, we have Cairo High School students, and
Yeah.
we have, Brookwood and Central and Thomasville. Before 2.5, 3, 4 years ago, they didn't really communicate with each other all that well. Now I got Thomas County kids sitting with Cairo kids,
Yeah.
and they don't see each other at all during the day, but on Wednesday nights, it's
Isn't
like,
that
hey,
awesome?
hey, what's up?
That's
and,
awesome.
and like, and whether my students realize this or not, like, I absolutely, like, I it's weird saying this, but I like want to cry when I see that, because
Yeah.
it is like the greatest thing
Yeah.
ever. Like, that's what you want to see. Like, and when you think about, Jesus, when he was doing his earthly ministry, you think about Peter and Paul, like, that was what they were talking about. That's what they're craving, is to see people from different areas just coming together
Yeah.
and
Well,
worshiping God together.
right,
I'm
well,
like, man, I love
And
that.
you think about Paul. I mean, you mentioned Paul. Paul believed that he was to take the message to the Gentiles. Gentiles were the very people that the Jews looked at and saw, as the Bible says, as dogs.
Yeah.
And so Paul's like, my goal in life is to get you to understand that you are the same person, that the same God who created the universe, the same Jesus that died not only for the Jews but also for the Gentiles. And when we see that in our church, there's no better picture. There's no better picture of the family of God when you see people from different, perspectives in life, people from different, layers in life come together as one body, as one unit, serving one God with the one message, one purpose. You name it. I tell you what I'm excited about. Because and here's the thing, and I guess I can issue this as a challenge as well. Because we see that a lot in a lot of our churches. As far as student ministry goes, you'll have like your Wednesday nights, kind of like for those of you who don't know, Wednesday nights for a youth pastor is like Sunday mornings for a pastor.
Yeah.
Like it's our big night. It's where kids are going to invite most of their friends and things like that. Our Sunday night is like the old school preaching to the choir. These are the kids that are faithful. They're going to be there. And so my challenge is, students, if you're listening and you're not involved in those smaller groups, you don't really understand what really happens there. You need to take advantage of it. Find ways to plug in, and it'll change your life. If you allow it and you come in and you're open, God will change your life.
Yeah.
And so, man, I'm excited. I can't wait.
That's what I was just gonna say. Like, despite what's going on, I'm actually super, super excited to get back. Now, like I said before, I think things are gonna be a lot different moving forward. So you're gonna have to adjust. And but I'm praying that there is gonna be a day coming very, very soon where we're able to kind of, let go of the reins and just be able to, full swing it again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's full swing it with wanting to do something even better.
That's right.
And wanting to do something great. So, so I'm super pumped. I'm super excited. I'm praying for Wednesday night. I'm praying for y'all's Wednesday night. I'm praying that it's great. And I know some other churches, some other youth groups have already met here around town, and I've talked to them, and they were impressed with the numbers that they had, and they were encouraged. And so it gives me hope for our crew, and so I'm
and
excited.
again, if you're listening, you don't go to a church, man, please take this time and plug in.
Yeah.
Wednesday night, First Baptist Church here in Cairo, Pine Level, outside of Cairo, right out there, and just come and be a part. I mean, look for us on social media. We both have Instagram pages and things like that, Facebook pages. Find us, find your friends. You know who they are. Plug in, figure out what's happening. And let's start. That's the thing. Like, let's hit that reset button. Let's have a fresh start. And the cool thing is like I was reading, and I did a Zoom video with our students, and I read a devotional talking about new beginnings. anytime you talk about new beginning, you generally only think of New Year's.
Yeah.
Well, God has given us a chance, even halfway through the year, to have another new beginning. Which, of course, God gives us new beginnings and fresh starts every single day. But this is a good chance to have a new beginning, a new fresh start. And that's why I challenge our leaders. Let's do what we can to make it new, make
Absolutely.
it fresh. There's nothing wrong with different. There's nothing wrong with even being scared sometimes of different. God can use that, and maybe God's trying to stretch us to do things that maybe we don't often see ourselves, but He's doing it to make us better as we're trying to make others better as well. And so, if you're not plugged in, man, please plug in. Find somewhere. We've got a group of great youth pastors, I think, around here.
Yeah.
From what little bit I've had a chance to meet everybody, um, you know, plug in, man, and that goes for adults too. Find ways that you can plug in. Not only just having your students plug in, but you plug in. I'm totally okay with some of our parents. If our parents want to come with our students,
Come on.
come on.
Yeah. Come on.
I mean, you're going to get the word just as your students are going to get, and you're going to get excitement just as your students are going to get from me. Same for you, I hope.
Yeah.
Find a way. Let's do something great. Like
Yeah.
that's my mentality is let's do something great. Let's create a new normal.
Yeah, the response of this group of students in this generation is going to be huge.
Oh,
It's going to
absolutely.
be
Well, look at Passion. Go to Passion. And unfortunately I've never been able to go to actual Passion by myself. Watched them on YouTube and things like that.
yeah.
There's a testament right there.
Oh yeah.
An arena slam full of college age students who are burning with passion for
Yeah,
Jesus.
and this is the generation that other generations talk bad about and say like, oh, this generation is
Yeah.
lazy,
Yeah.
bunch of crazy millennials, and you got three different arenas of 18 and 25-year-olds filled to the brim, worshiping
Yeah.
the Lord and
Yeah.
going after God together.
That's right.
And so I'm encouraged, and I know that this generation of middle school and high school students, they can do it too. And I'm super excited, and I'm blessed to even just be a part of
So
it.
I was about to say, as I was about to ask you, what the best part is that God is using us.
Yeah, I'm just along for the ride.
I
I'm just there to help and to help lead that. And man, I'm pumped. And I've even seen it too, like whether it be at a camp or a conference or a D-Now or even just on a normal Wednesday night in our youth. I've seen it to where, man, kids once they get it and that light bulb goes off, I mean it is game on from there,
Yeah.
and they can't be stopped.
Yeah.
And so, but anyways, so that's a good conversation. I'm excited. Let's kind of give the look at the coronavirus from a youth minister's perspective.
Yeah.
So
Go away, Corona.
I know.
That's what youth pastors don't want to say. Go away, please. We
Just-
miss our kids.
just get out of here.
We miss our students.
I hope the students miss us.
I do too.
Do you think they?
I think they do.
Okay.
Pine Level students, please miss me. Oh boy. No, I mean,
Here's the cool thing about my students is that they're probably glad that I'm doing videos right now because like, well, at least Brandon doesn't have to waste 15 to 20 minutes on announcements now. He just like, it's the only thing that always got to me. It's like they always talk about I take so long on announcements. And they're like, man, you wouldn't have to cut your message down if you didn't take so long on announcements. I was like, whoa.
Okay,
felt
real
that.
quick. That's why I love student ministry. Students do not hold back. Students, thank you for not holding back. I love the rawness of students.
Yeah.
I love the bluntness of teenagers. Somebody asked me one time, they're like, so why don't you do student ministry? I was like, let me tell you why. They tell you exactly what they think,
Yeah.
how they feel. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to question. You know how they feel. And it's in that moment that they're vulnerable, whether they know it or not, they're vulnerable, and you can do something to help change that.
Oh, absolutely. I love the witty students, the
Oh.
one that they just give it right back.
Yeah.
So quick. And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
This-
I love teenagers.
This is how we're going to do it. All right. So, anyways, yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully soon we can have a moment where all these churches, all these different youth pastors, we can get together and do something big. I don't know what
Yeah.
that looks like yet. I don't think any of us do, but
Right.
because I love those moments too. They're really, really cool. So, but anyways, yeah. So thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, this was just a different perspective for us, or a different perspective for you. As Matt and I just get here. It was going to be a relaxed podcast, and we just wanted to just kind of share our perspective of what's going on. But like Matt said earlier, if you don't have a church home, man, I just encourage you. There's so many great churches here in Cairo. As much as we want to be, biased and say come to ours, we support each other.
Absolutely.
And we want to, we want to see people come to know the Lord. That's why we do what we do. And so we want you to be a part, wherever that is, wherever your church home is. We would love for you to dive in to God's Word and get involved into what God is doing in our community and what He's doing in our churches. And then also, too, we're just excited to get back with the students. Hopefully the students, are excited to get back together with us. And, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot different, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's right.
But real quick, as we kind of wrap this podcast up, I just want to remind everybody, you can catch us on all of our different platforms. You know it by now. It's the Syrup City Podcast. And then you can find us on Facebook. That's the Syrup City Podcast. Syrup City's one word. And then on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, it's Syrup City Podcast. Again, Syrup City's one word. Or if you're a Podbean fan, you can go to syrupcitypodcast.podbean.com. And you can check us out there. Also, too, we failed to mention this a couple of times, Matt, but we do have an email. And
we have an email?
Yeah, we do. See, you didn't even know. We have an email. And it's syrupcitypodcast1@gmail.com. Again, syrupcitypodcast1@gmail.com. And that email is for you, the listener. You can send in prayer requests. You can send in suggestions. You could say, hey, when I listen, Brandon sounds way too loud. Let us know.
Yeah.
Or you just call me if you know my number. just tell me. But hey, syrupcitypodcast1@gmail.com. Love to get your feedback. Love to get your insight on some things. And we want to make this a platform for you and a platform for the Syrup City that we can help spread the gospel and spread great information for you. So
yeah, let us know what's going on. I mean, let us know what's going on in your churches. We like to use this platform here to celebrate you and your church as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like Brandon said, our heart is, for the church. My heart's not for each individual church. My heart's for the church as a whole. And so I celebrate, and we want to celebrate you and what God's doing there with you, which is why we bring in pastors and youth pastors from other churches to just let them have a chance to talk and to say, man, God's doing this and this, and then it gives us a chance just to celebrate with them as well.
Absolutely. So again, sorry for the lateness for the upload, but thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening, and you'll catch us next week. I think next week we'll have all the kinks out, and you'll be able to catch us Friday at noon. But if you're listening to us right now, whether it be Friday evening or whenever you're listening, I hope you have a great weekend. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
That's right.
And get ready to tune in with us next week on Friday. So again, have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and y'all be safe. God bless.
See you soon, guys.